what is a type selector, ID selector, class selector. One important point we discussed. Technically working with the selectors. Yeah. Yep. Next important, we need to understand about other types of selectors available, how to deal with them. So yesterday we discussed about combinators, how to use rational selectors. We learned descendant selector. Descendant selector is defined with a space. Is defined with a space. This is descendant selector. And next important, after descendant selector, we have child selector. So we have a child selector. Technically, descendant selector, so it is defined in this way. So we have parent and space child, and we have to define attributes. This is the basic syntax actually. Syntax for parent and child. So that is syntactically how you define, syntactically how you configure. So it applies to all of them, right? Yeah. Next we have a child selector. Actually, child selector, it matches only the direct child of element. That means it applies effects only to the direct child of parent element. Direct child of parent element. That is what actually child selector is at. So what does that means? Suppose let's see what does that means actually. So we are using the example yesterday. One simple example we will take. Yeah. And in this example, so let's go to the example here. Okay. So let's add a new file here. Fine. Okay, so this is the page. Let's add some style and see here. Suppose we have options like heading. So we have a heading. So this is heading 1. Under that we have para 1, and we have para 2. Okay. And after that, so we have some other options defined. That means, so again, heading some 3 came, or some other div came. Yeah. So here we typed some text here, and we again defined a paragraph that is para 3, like this we define. So we configured the options, and we are applying actually effects here. We are applying the effects. So let's see, generally we are applying the effects heading 2. In that I said P space color as red. We applied like this. That means wherever heading 2 is there, heading 2, and under that paragraphs are there. We want some contents there. This is heading and some contents. Some effects need to be applied. And here you can see when we are applying the effects. So through style, we are configuring the effects through style. Here we defined a space and we are configuring the effects. So that means what is our intention here is wherever heading 2 is there, inside that, under that heading 2, some effects need to be applied. But important is this is heading, that is parent, and this is paragraph. We are applying to paragraph. Suppose if I am applying to paragraph, then it will apply to all paragraphs. It will apply to all paragraphs. But I said heading 2 paragraph, heading 2 paragraph. That means we are defining heading 2 paragraph. It is not applying because here this is not a child of this element directly, actually, not a child of this element. Generally, descendant means usually it works with a combination of parent and a child hierarchy. Parent and child hierarchy. So parent and child hierarchy. That means this is not a child of this one. Many people have that confusion. That is the reason I showed this. That means, so this is not child. Actually, these are adjacent. That means this is paragraph is adjacent to this heading, not child to that heading. So generally descendant selectors, child selectors, these are defined for child options. Suppose I said greater than here, that is descendant selector. And here you cannot apply them because descendant and child, both meaning is same. That means they depend on parent element. They depend on parent element. So that means it applies target all tags under specified parent. This you should notice. Descendant and child can be used for parent and child hierarchy only. Actually, parent and child hierarchy. So what is the parent and child hierarchy usually? That means the parent element, in that some child elements must be there. Parent element and in that some child element must be there. That is important, right? So technically that is parent-child hierarchies. So you have parent-child hierarchy means ordered list, unordered list. You want to apply for ordered list, unordered list. In that case, we can go with it. That will work if it is defined within that heading also, then it will work. That means if these paragraphs are present inside this, then it will work. Suppose we have table cells. In that case, these options are very much required. I will show you. So this is not parent-child hierarchy. Remember that one, right? So this is parent-child hierarchy, ordered list, unordered list, like that. Not only that, for example, suppose, so what is descendant selector here? We'll see. So here we have a table. So table has some width is equal to some 300, border is equal to 1. And here we have a T head in that row in TD, TH, because we have a lot of combinations. So we have name, so we have price, okay. And another T body, in the T body we have T row in that TD. So here we have options like TV and some price. And we have another row, and TD. And here I'm defining some mobile and some price. So now generally what we want here is technically. So this is the table. We have a table here. I want to apply for rows. Then usually what we do is in the style some TR, and I just defined background color. So I said background color as some yellow, background color as yellow row. Then you can see it affects to all of them. That means it is applying the effect to all of them. But actually it should not affect to it should not affect to all of them. What should happen is it should affect only in the table body rows, not for table head rows, table body rows. Then here we can write like T body in the table body. So here we say descendant, table body descendant. That means in the table body, it should apply for the rows. So this is child selection. That means you can see here, it will apply for only table body rows. So here, this is called as, actually, this is technically called as, so child selector. We generally call as child selector, and means parent and child. You can give any lengthy hierarchy. Suppose I want to apply, so to table body in a table, so or to a table cell, if you want to apply to a table cell in table body, table row. In that case, you can define in this way. That means, for example, suppose T head. This is T head. In table header, we have TR, TR. In that, we have TD. Like this, we can define multi-level. So for that, I'm applying, suppose some background color. So background color as line. Suppose light green, something like this I define. That means you are applying to the cell. So it should apply to that particular cell. So, but there is no TD inside T head, because in TR we are having TH. That means we have table header. That means we need to apply for the table header. So that means it should apply to the table header. So that means you can go any level hierarchies, and you can define the hierarchy. So that means the elements, if there are having parent and child hierarchy, then you can apply by using this selector. This is called as a child selector. You can add any combination actually. That means you can define anywhere. So that means you have a heading, inside that you have some content, inside that you have some class. You can apply there. For example, suppose let's go and see here. This is one example. I'm copying this. Yeah, this is one example. So parent-child hierarchy. So direct child of that parent element. Okay. Now, important is we are applying that. This is the example for this. Right. That is the example. Okay. Now, it can be anywhere, defined anywhere. Suppose we are configuring the options like this. So we are configuring the options in a heading, suppose. Suppose we have a heading. We are defining a heading. So I define this like this. And in this, I'm writing some sentence. This, I will put a span. I'll put a span here. And some class, subclass. Here I define effects. In that we have, so this heading I defined like this. And after that span, so I'm writing this heading is, and after that span, I'm writing another EM or I italic or emphasized. I say that, so very, very important. I defined like this. It can be in a span, that means very important. So I can keep all this inside a span. Keep all this inside the span. In a heading, you have all this information defined here. That means in a heading, we have general text. We have a span. In that span also, we have an italic sentence. This is lengthy hierarchy. That means like this, if you have content inside them. So generally we have content inside them. And you can see now here, I will see here, this is very. I want to apply effect for that very sentence. I want to apply effect for that very word. So because very important is inside italic. That means we need to apply for that. In that case, how do we define the effect now? So how do we define the effect? So we say H1. Okay. In that, the child is span. Okay. In that span, we have italic. Okay. What should be the color? So color some red, like this we define. That means it should apply only for very important. Like this, it can configure the effects and define the effects. It can configure and define the effects, right? This is a child combinator. This is a child combinator. So generally a descendant and a child combinator. How you configure the descendant and child combinators. So if there is a multi-level hierarchy, within that another element, then the multi-level hierarchy defined by using this symbol, This is another example for the same concept here. So how you use the descendant selector. Yeah, that is two options. We have an descendant selector and another one is a child selector. Child descendant both have the same meaning actually. Means parent and child hierarchy. But if you are configuring through a multi-level hierarchy of elements and you are defining to a specific under the parent, then you have to use this child combinator. Another important, we have adjacent sibling combinator. Remember, these are all according to the standards of W3, means according to the web standards, the terms and whatever we are talking here. According to W3 standards, the terms for selectors we are following, right? This is an adjacent sibling. Combinator. Adjacent sibling combinator, usually the main purpose of adjacent sibling is, it is not parent-child hierarchy. So it represents an element that is placed immediately after another element. That means, so it defines effects to an element So which is defined, which is specified immediately after another element, immediately after another element, another element. So it is defined another element. It defines an affix to an element which is specified immediately after another element. So that is what actually the combination of adjacent sibling combinator. That means what happens is, suppose we have this adjacent sibling is used by using syntactically, it is defined by using. So here we have a element, and plus we have b element. This is adjacent. This we have parenthesis. That means the first element and plus the second element. That is the plus option we use here. So plus operator is used for defining adjacent sibling. That means suppose here, same here, suppose we have a heading. So we have a heading and heading 1, that is heading. Under that heading, we have para 1 and we have para 2, and we have para 3. So para 3, we have that headings here. Now, important is when you configure that, I want to apply the effects for heading 1. Under that heading 1, so the paragraph, plus paragraph. And I suppose defined color as red. This indicates that apply effects to immediate paragraph that comes after heading 1, adjacent. That means it will apply to only first one. It will apply to only the first one. That means it applies to the immediate. That is what actually adjacent sibling is. Adjacent sibling. That means it will work only for the first one. Immediately that comes after that, it will apply to the first one. So that means beside that first paragraph, it will apply only for adjacent, right? So that is means it will not apply for all of them, only the first one. You have a tilde symbol. Actually, this is called as general sibling combinator. That is called as general sibling combinator. General sibling combinator, it defines effects. See how it defines effects. This general sibling combinator, you can see it will apply effects to the all paragraphs that comes after that heading. All paragraphs, that means all of them. That means only the first one, then we can use the adjacent sibling. General sibling, it defines effects to all elements, which are specified after the defined element. So that means after the current element, you can say current element. That means it applies effects to all elements that are specified after the current element. That's what actually the effects, the combination, how it can define. This is general sibling, and syntactically, general sibling is defined. So a element, and you use a tilde, and the b element. If the B element has several occurrences after the A element, it will apply everywhere. So the same example here, I say plus, then I will copy that. So that is example for this. That means it will apply. This will apply only for the first one. First paragraph only applied. And if you define this, then it will apply for all paragraphs. That means it will configure for all paragraphs. Yeah, all paragraphs, right. You can use any combinations. You can use class, you can use combinations, right? Uh, First, if you wait until we finish all the concepts, so then you will get a clarity instead of getting hurried into the concept. I know because you are very excited into the topic, many people immediately ask, sir, I want first two, last two, third two, in between one. I know you will have so much excitement, but keep your excitement with you. You will learn all those points. So just concentrate on what we are discussing. Right. I know that immediately the next question. So now immediately one person will ask, sir, I want only last one. Sir, I want only third one. I want only fourth one. If you want, then you have to wait. Okay. Right. So these are three important selectors. The first important, we have a child selector, descendant selector. We have a child selector, and we have an adjacent sibling selector, and we have a sibling combinators, right? Technically, these are all under the category of combinators. That means how we can use the combinators, how we can work with the combinators. Yeah. So that is one important category. In the selectors, we have that combinators or rational selectors. Here we have combinators. Next, important after understanding the combinators. So we have another category, that is attribute selectors. Attribute selector. First, combinators are clear, right? What combinators we learned. How to apply parent and child, how to apply adjacent elements. So two combinators are there, we discussed about. Okay. Next, we have attribute selectors. Technically, attribute selectors. Attribute selectors are required because one of the main problem that we face, is generally when you are defining effects for elements, especially you should know that several HTML elements are presented using attribute using attribute of a tag using attribute of a tag. Several HTML elements are presented using attribute of a tag. Hence, we have to apply effects. So for a tag and its attribute, we have to apply effects for a tag and its attribute. That is the combination actually. Suppose, what is the point is, this type of situation comes regularly. So here, suppose we are using a form. In the form, we have a data list, data term, so name. So data definition, this is input type is equal to text. Input type is equal to text. And another data term, suppose price. Price also input type is equal to text. Okay. And after that, we have created two buttons. So that means input type is equal to button. Let's create this. And the button value is suppose submit. Okay. Another input type is equal to button and value is equal to cancel, like this. Here, the tag is input for all of them. For text box also input. For suppose we have password, right? For password box also input only. For password also input only. For button also input only. Tag is input. So if I want to apply effect here, suppose if I return like this input, so background color, so is equal to yellow. It will apply for all of them. You can see for text, it will apply for password, it will apply for submit, it will apply. I want to apply only to the input if its type is password, not for all of them. That means now the effect must be based on the attribute and its value. Type is not a tag, type is attribute. You cannot write type here. You cannot write type here. That is not a tag. It is not an element. Here we have to use input. Okay, input. And wherever input type is password, input type is password, there only that effect should apply. If I write input, it will apply everywhere because all are input only. But we have to define based on type. Then what we do is we use attribute selector. Attribute selector means how you define the attributes. How you define the attribute. Technically, syntactically, attribute selector is defined like this. Tag name and in square brace, attribute name is equal to its value and close. And here we define the effects. That means which attribute and which value. You have to define the attribute and value. That means here tag name is input. In the square brace here we are defining colon. So here we are defining attribute is type. Input type is equal to so attribute is type is equal to input type is equal to what type it is, password, like this. We are configuring. So without quotes also it will work. So that means we are defining input type is equal to password. So we are configuring the attribute in this way. So element name and attribute name, we have to define the attribute name. So it will apply to that particular attribute. So, and if the attribute is matching with that particular value, it will apply that. So then I say save here, and I will with refresh there. Suppose we have refreshed there. Suppose we refresh here. You can see it is apply for only password. Suppose I want to apply only for button. That means input and the type is equal to, so button. Type is equal to button. If input type is equal to button, then background color should be suppose light green something, and it will apply for the buttons. You can define attribute and its value. Remember, only attribute also works, but here we need both in this situation. That means you can define attribute in value, or we can also define tag name and square brace. Here we defined the attribute. So attribute, that is also okay. Attribute, and we can define effects. If the tag is having that particular attribute, then it will apply. We can define attribute or attribute and value combinations we can use. For example, suppose see here. So this is example. This is one example. So example I defined. This is the example. This is based on attribute we are applying. So based on the attribute we are applying. Okay, based on the attribute I'm defining here. So here attribute and value also used here. For example, now suppose not only attribute value, suppose here we have a paragraph, and this paragraph is having suppose para 1. Okay, another paragraph is having para 2. Okay, another paragraph is having para 3. Now second paragraph is having id as p2, and third paragraph is having id as p3. Suppose id as p3, and another paragraph is para 4, like this. Now I want to apply the effects to the paragraphs that have id. Which id they have, we don't care. I want the paragraphs that have the id. I want to apply effects to the paragraphs that have id. I don't care which id it is, because there can be several different ids. Then for everyone we cannot write id is equal to p2, id is equal to p3. Then what we do is here paragraph in the square brace which have id. Paragraph have id, then its color should be red. That means we have to define the red color for paragraphs that have id. You can see paragraph having id have red color. Which id? I can use id also. That means if it is having id as p2 or p3, id as p3, then only that one will work. But any id is okay for me. That means then I can just give the attribute there. It will apply to that. That means we can apply to the paragraphs that have that id. You can configure that. So you can use this syntax. So you can write in this way. So this is another example here. So that means we are defining the paragraph in the style. Just roughly I'm defining. And your HTML will be in this way. Suppose you have some paragraphs, and in those paragraphs you have few IDs, and few paragraphs are defined with ID. Then for them it can apply that. It can apply. That means now it is applied only to these two things. It will not apply to all. So you can define the attribute. You can define the attribute. That is attribute selector. But attribute selector with the value, when you are defining with the value, there can be several conditions for the value. There can be several conditions for the value. That means attribute values, there can be several conditions. What are the conditions for the values? So different conditions can be there for the value. Here, this symbol indicates value is equal to, that means attribute is equal to this value, is equal to that value. So that is what actually the point, equal to that value. So equal means it should match with that particular value. Now attribute selectors have several conditions. That means attribute selectors. So selectors can use multiple conditions. Attribute selectors can use multiple conditions. Generally, what are the conditions? So what are the conditions for attribute? So how we define that? That means how we can define the condition. So let's see how we can configure the condition, right? And use the condition. So this is condition and its purpose. Generally, what are the various conditions for attributes? The various conditions for attributes. Let's see. Technically, what are the various conditions for attributes? First one is you are having here. So we are having attribute is equal to value. Attribute is equal to value. This indicates that so it should be an exact match. It should be an exact match. Equal means it should be an exact match. It should exactly match. So another option is that is exact match. We will see that. That means anywhere the attributes are defined, then exactly it will verify. That means it will verify that it should have the same word, same capitalization. Suppose I'm defining some options like here. Let's go to the options and see here. I will take a new one for this. Okay, let's keep some paragraphs and all options here correctly. Right. So technically, so I am using some paragraphs. So some paragraphs of option and we are defining it. So generally, what is the purpose of this selection is, suppose we have P. It is having a class as para effect. That is the class name. And this is para 1. Okay. And another one, so it is having a class. This is having, suppose, some name, a configuring of some name. We are defining the name. Like para effect, suppose we are having para effect like this. That means some space is there. That means some space is defined, right? And very important is it is configured. Okay. And very important is, suppose it is having another option is class effect. So it is having effect para like this. And this is second one is, this is para 2 and this is para 3. So para 3. And it is having option as effect. This is having class called effect. And we say para 4. Like this we configure. Here what you observe is the names can be in various ways depending on the requirement, the various names. Now if I define here, so I want to apply for paragraph whose class is equal to having effect word. Class is having effect word, effect as a value. Then I will apply color as red. Now can you tell me for which paragraph it will apply? For which paragraph it is going to apply? For which paragraph it is going to apply? It is going to apply. For which paragraph it is going to apply? So currently we used equal there. Am I right? Currently we used equal there. When I'm using equal there, that means it is going to affect exact match. It is going to affect exact match. Right? Exact match. So understood, it is having exact match. Right? That means it will apply only to the fourth one. It is going to apply only the fourth one because that is only the option which is having exact match to this effect. Exact match to that effect. That will apply only to the last one. So this is one option to understand this first situation, exact match. So example is this. This is the exact match. Okay. Another important now here, the point is you can apply the effect here. You can apply the effect here. So based on some other attributes, also some other properties also. What are those other properties here is, suppose you want here combination. So this symbol, that means you have an attribute. We have an attribute. Attribute is equal to. So that means it is exactly matching with the value. It is matching with the value. But if I defined, if I defined exponent caret equal to, if it defined that caret equal to, this caret symbol actually, according to the meta characters, that caret symbol indicates that it specifies the effects. If the value, it defines the effects, it refers the value matching, starting with. So it refers the value starting with specified. So starting with specified term, value matching with specified stuff. That is what actually the point. It defines the value matching starting with specified term. Caret indicates starting with. It defines starting with. That means here you can see that this is, I defined that I want to apply that. Let's go here. I'm using a caret equal. That means the word starting with effect. The class starting with effect. That means, can you tell me where it will apply? Can you tell me where it will apply? Where it will apply? Third and fourth. Good, right? Am I right? It will apply third and fourth. That means it is going to apply third and fourth. So paragraph 3 and 4, and you can see that it is applying paragraph 3rd and 4th. It is applying 3rd and 4th. That is how you define that attribute value is starting with. Yes, the value is starting with. That means this is defined exponent, that is starting with that particular one. Actually, if you define the attribute, dollar equal to value, then it specifies the value ending with. It specifies the value ending with. So it specifies the value ending with. That means now if I define here dollar, right? If I define dollar, then where it will affect now? So ending with, that means where it is going to affect now? It is going to affect in first paragraph, second paragraph, and fourth paragraph. Fourth paragraph also starting is effect, ending is effect now. Am I right? First, second, and fourth paragraph, because it is starting with that and ending with that. First, second, and fourth. That means it is going to affect the first paragraph, second paragraph, and the fourth paragraph. So it is going to add the effect in that way. Add the effect in that way. That means it is going to add the effect in this way. Right. So that is the option. That is the option. That is the option how it is affecting. So this is ending with. That means this is ending with. The value is ending with. Caret is for starting with. And caret is for starting with. And this is ending with. This is ending with. Now you have another option. Another option is we have an attribute, and we have asterisk equal, and value. Asterisk equal value. That means, so that, what does that means? Asterisk indicates, so it matches at any location, at any place. It matches at any place. It matches at any place. It matches at any place. That means now here I am adding asterisk equal. That means effect is matching at any place. Effect is matching at any place. All are matching, na? That means it is matching everywhere. That means it is going to affect everywhere. It is going to affect anywhere. Right. That is affecting everywhere. That is how generally the basic options we define. Basic options we define. Right. Here, technically, when you are dealing these attribute selectors. So these symbols that we are using, they are actually meta characters. They are actually meta characters. The meaning of meta character means, already you know in the patterns we learned. So it uses the meta characters. So in the patterns we discussed about that. That means we have question mark, we have plus, we have greater than, less than, we have square braces, asterisks. In JavaScript, we will detailedly discuss about every meta character. Then you can have a good understanding about that, even good understanding about that. How that actually used, how these are used, right? Yeah. Here, the point is, whenever you are defining the selectors, so according to the situation, you need to choose the selectors. In the attribute selectors, some more are there. For example, this is an attribute selector. So this is an example for that. This is an example for that. This is an example for that asterisk, how you can use the asterisk. So what is caret? What is equal? Equal means exact match. Caret means starts with. And dollar means ends with. Dollar means ends with. So that means where it is ending with. And here asterisk means, so you are using anywhere. So including the spaces also supported, everywhere. Sometimes when you define the class names and all in the CSS later, the class names will be like hyphen, with hyphens. Sometimes class names will be with the space. Sometimes the class names will be with hyphens. Actually, combination can be there. So if class name is having hyphen, as of now, you can see that everywhere it is working, no problem, because you said universal. So technically, if I give equal, that means it is going to affect only fourth one. Suppose you say caret, that means it is going to affect only 3 and 4. And if I say dollar, that means ends with, that is ends with, it is going to affect 2. It is not going to affect the third one. So because ending with, there is an option, a pipe symbol you can use. We can use a pipe symbol. Technically, we can define a pipe symbol. Actually, the main intention of pipe symbol is to apply to the paragraphs. Generally, it is used to configure when it is starting with, and it is having, suppose I said pipe symbol and I applied para. This time I'm using para word. I'm not using the effect word, para word. Then usually you can see it will apply to the second one. That means it is starting with and it is separated with hyphen. It is separated with hyphen. It is starting with and it is separated with hyphen. Because others also have para. Suppose if I use here exponent, then exponent means it will apply first and second. If I use pipe symbol, it indicates that it should start with and separated with hyphen. Then start with and separated with hyphen means only this. Separated with hyphen, then only this. Because later in future, so many effects, means so many CSS you have to use, and all the CSS will have similar type of concept. Means all are separated with spaces only generally. In that case, spaces and hyphens, majority, they are separated. In that case, you have to use this or. That means we have to configure the attribute and attribute. So let's keep an attribute and pipe symbol equal to a value defined there. This indicates that name starts with the specified term, and separated. So separated with hyphen. That is what actually the combination is. So for that, this is an example, separated with hyphen. Then this is an example. Generally, sometimes you see one more option is there. Suppose we have P. So the class, this is para space effect. We have space also. This is para 5. We have para and space. And here you can see it's not applying for the 5. You have another operator. So you have another operator. What is another operator? That means here we are defining. Suppose configuring as tilde symbol. That means we have a tilde symbol. Generally, the tilde symbol is to identify the spaces. Technically, it is used to identify the spaces configured. That means this is specifying. The tilde symbol is specifying the spaces. That means it will apply the last one. That means for spaces specially. That means for spaces, identifying the spaces and applying the spaces, then we use this tilde symbol, right? So suppose if I say starts with, that means all will be applied here. All are starting with those only. But it should start, or it should contain an hyphen, or it should contain a hyphen. It should start or it should contain. So it should contain a space, then it will apply that. So that means this indicates that starts with specified term. So or and separated with hyphen. Here important is it is not or symbol actually. This is not or symbol that you may think like. if it is an or symbol, and if it is an or symbol, then why it is applying only to the second one? That means why it is applying only to the second one? It should apply to the first one also. It should apply the last one also, because they are also starting. That means if you say starting or, right, it's not starting and or, it is for hyphen. It is for hyphen, and tilde is for space. Tilde is for space, configuring for the space, right? That is the intention of these two. That means we can configure or, and here we can use attribute, and the tilde is equal to value. And this is for, so effect for configuring for. So name starts with the specified and can contain space, can contain space. In that case, this is the option we have. Several more categories or of options we can define, we can combine here. So this is all about the attribute selectors, how you configure and define the attribute selectors. So we have combinators, rational selectors, and we have attribute selectors, how we can configure. Now we have pseudo selectors. So we have pseudo selectors, and we have structural pseudo selectors. So many subtypes are there that we will see in our next session, other types of selectors. Then mostly it will take one more session to finish the selectors, because so many are there. With examples, we have to see them. Then selectors is done. Now we can go with the effects, how to apply the effects, right? Monday we will continue with this and discuss, right? Yeah.